Good day to my listeners out there. I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way? And I'm your podcast host. My name is Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And for those new listeners out there, let me share with you what this podcast is all about. It's for individuals who are ready to move forward in their lives. You know, you have like this kind of fire in your belly or this inkling that there's something else that you should be doing, but yet something's stopping you. You feel stuck. Have any of you ever felt like that? Well, that's what this is all about. So anyway, it's an opportunity for you to, and we talk about topics that are personal, business development, and self-reflection. So we talk about those type of topics, and hopefully that as we go through this process, you will resonate and you will start reflecting on some of the things, and then you may have an aha moment, and that's what we're hoping you'll have. And today, our topic is sell like Jesus. Everyone is in sales, and who better to talk about that is our special guest, Deb Brown Maher. Hello, Deb. How are you?
Hi, Cassandra. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thanks for being on my show today. I certainly appreciate it. And this is the first thing I do for my listeners. They want to know a little bit about you before we really delve into our conversation. So I'm going to read a little bit of your bio. Deb is the author of Sell Like Jesus, a relationship catalyst that helps business owners and freelancers change their sales approach by shifting their sales perspective from convincing a prospect to buy to being of service to them. Deb's combination of coaching, creative listening, and supportive guidance enables her clients to gain a new perspective on their sales process and conversations, which leads to increased sales and business growth success. In the past, Deb worked in a high-tech industry for startups and multinational corporations. In 2008, she founded Deb Brown Sales and is honored to be a trusted consultant to many Amish business owners in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Wow, that's interesting, Deb. The first thing, though, I'd like to ask is I'd like to hear about your backstory before you entered the high tech industry. What was Deb about back then?
So it took me a little while to figure out what I was really good at that meshed with the business arena.
Mm-hmm.
So I held a number of sales positions and customer service positions.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Cassandra, I approach sales as a problem solver. Whatever product or service that I had to sell, it needed to solve a problem for the person who was going to buy it. And I enjoyed that whole process of uncovering what's really going on that's causing the problem.
Okay.
And how would my solution fit that or not?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. And it's interesting how you stated that everyone is in sales.
Yeah.
I used to have a boss that used to say that, even though I wasn't in the sales department, but he always said that I sell. Everybody sells. When you say that, what do you mean? How does everyone be in sales? How is that?
Well, think about how many times during the day do you need to get buy-in from another person, from
Mm-hmm.
your children, from your spouse, from
Mm-hmm.
your coworkers, from your boss, from your friends?
Mm-hmm.
Getting buy-in means you gain agreement, you decide on a course of action, you decide on where to go on vacation, you agree to what time you're going to have dinner. I mean, whenever two individuals interact and one wants one thing and one wants another and they're
Yeah.
in opposition,
Yeah.
You know, people might call that compromise or negotiation, but honestly, life goes better when we do that in a way that we gain agreement and we come to the same side.
Mm.
That is salesmanship.
Hmm. Wow. I've never thought of it in that way. Like you said, we're selling everything. I mean, we want to have buy-in just during the day. Even people, like you said, on your job, if you have a thought or idea, you want to present that to your boss.
Yeah.
Even if you, I don't know, as simple as a hairstylist, you want customers, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you have to like sell yourself to see whether there's somebody that wants to be your customer. That's interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
I noticed though in 2008 is when you started your business. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that around the recession? I'm like,
Absolutely.
what are you
Yes,
thinking?
it was. Thank you for noticing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit more of my backstory. How did I get into sales permanently in my
Yeah.
professional life? How did I write a book about sales?
Yeah.
Um, so I was a reluctant salesperson, and I bet many of your listeners can identify with that
Hmm.
because I was always passionate about what I had to sell, what I wanted to sell, but I wasn't passionate about the sales process
Okay.
because nobody wants to be high pressured.
Hmm.
And the high pressure sales techniques are embedded in the psyche of the world.
Hmm.
You can't go a full day without some kind of high pressure sales technique being used on you.
Hmm.
And because it's used on us all the time and nobody really likes it
Hmm.
because I'll buy if I want to. I'll
Yeah.
buy what I want when I want. Because we don't like it, we don't want to be associated with that.
Hmm.
And if sales means I have to do that, ick, don't want any parts of it, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So when I say I was a reluctant salesperson, it's because I didn't want to be associated with that icky feeling that even I get when being pressured.
Hmm. Hmm.
But God
Hmm.
had a different, um, he had a different path for me.
Okay.
He and I went back and forth because I kept trying to get jobs that weren't sales, and he kept opening doors for sales jobs.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned the high tech industry. It was 1998 that I got into the high tech industry, and I was there for almost 10 years.
Hmm.
Well, when I got tired of the politics of the 30,000 person corporation
Hmm.
and decided to quit,
Wow.
I was just going to get another tech sales job.
Yeah.
And all the doors were shut.
Wow. Wow.
And the Lord said, I want you to start your own business.
Mm.
And I said, yeah,
Right.
but,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I liked the constant paycheck. I liked vacation pay, sick pay,
Yeah.
benefits, all that,
That's control.
perceived control, right?
Right. Right.
Because not really.
Uh-huh.
So it was about 9 months. Yes, ladies, the gestation period of a child that
Yeah.
I resisted the Lord's prompting, especially because the economy was kind of topsy turvy
Yeah,
already.
it was. Hmm.
And finally, I had my own come to Jesus moment. It was a conversation between me and the Lord
Mm-hmm.
where I heard him say to me, "Are you going to call me a liar? I made you good at sales. Are you
Mm-hmm.
going to call me a liar?"
Mm.
And I went, "Ouch,
Yeah.
don't want to do that." And he said, "If you say yes, I will help you."
Mm. Okay.
So I took a deep breath and I said yes. And
Okay.
January 1st, 2028, I hung my shingle
Mm.
and started contacting people that I knew in the business community and said, "I'm doing sales coaching. Who do you know that I should be talking to?"
Okay.
And I started getting clients. And
Wow.
Cassandra, the Lord, was true to his word,
Mm.
blessed me. He blessed my business. My first year, I made $30,000 coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It tripled the
Wow.
second year and it tripled the third year.
Oh, amazing. Mm. Mm-mm.
So I stand in awe of the good things that can happen for us when we are willing to get out of our own way
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
and say yes to that thing, that dream, that prompting, that desire, that longing
Yeah.
that we know is right, but comes wrapped in a package coated with fear.
Yeah. That's right. Absolutely. Well, I applaud you for that. And I'm glad you were obedient because God just showed up and showed out in your life. And I think that in itself is a blessing.
It
Now,
is.
so tell us, like when you say sell like Jesus, first of
Mhm.
all, what are the characteristics? Like I think you said there were 7 characteristics of Christ for ethical sales. Could you explain what those are?
Yeah, so just give you a little bit of background on the book itself.
Okay,
And so, writing the book was not my idea, it
okay.
was the Lord's idea. He gave me the title, and it took me about 7 years
Mm,
to become an author
mm,
and actually figure out what I needed to write about and to whom.
mm-hmm.
And so my faith is strong. The way that I have been successful at sales was always to treat people as I would want to be treated,
Mm-hmm.
which is biblical, and to do things in a way that I could look at myself in the mirror at the end of every day and say, I did right, I did well. And God could be pleased
Mm-hmm.
with what I
Yes.
had done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a lot of study and filtering of sales techniques, negotiation strategies, different sales approaches, and really became an avid student of psychology and applied biblical principles
Mm-hmm.
to sales conversation.
Okay.
And so Jesus is the perfect model
Mm,
for how to have what are often difficult conversations.
mm-hmm. That's true.
So much of his time he was teaching, and there's some teaching that we do in sales,
Mm-hmm.
but honestly, of the 7 characteristics that I write about in the book,
Mm-hmm.
the two that everything comes back to are listening and asking effective questions.
Mm. Okay.
And I say listening first
Yeah.
because if we're coming with a script and a message that we want to deliver, that is one sided. That's me to you.
Mm-hmm.
And if I am delivering that without knowing anything about you, I have no clue as to whether what I'm saying is of interest, is phrased in a way that you can understand,
Yeah.
is something that you would want to learn more about.
Yeah.
It's one-sided. And
Mm.
so if we're listening, gosh, what are we listening for? Well, when you're in sales, you're listening to the person and why they've tried to contact you.
Okay.
Something happened, something's going on
Right.
that they reached out or they were receptive when you
Yeah.
called or
Mm-hmm.
got your email or saw your post.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to understand what's going on in their mind, their world. What are their concerns? What problem? Here we are, problem
Right.
solving.
So,
What problem are they trying to solve?
yeah.
And if I don't listen with the intent of understanding versus, and this is what we all do, myself included, unless I am conscious and thinking about it, we listen for what we could be saying next
Mm.
instead
Yeah.
of
That's true.
listening to what is being said,
Okay.
contemplating it, analyzing it, and then formulating a question based on what we just heard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So, what are the other five? We have the listening.
Well, actually, here, let me go down the list.
Okay.
I'm going to read it because I don't trust my memory to not miss one.
Okay.
So I looked at how did Christ behave. So
Mm-hmm.
the first one, the first characteristic is his character.
Mm-hmm.
What character did he display? Um, what was the purpose that he was all about?
Okay.
The second one is the characteristic of connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
when you're in sales, it's not everyone who could use what you have to offer.
Right.
There's an ideal target audience. And because we all have limited time and limited money, we need to be very focused on who we are targeting. I said earlier, I needed to know who I was writing the book to.
Right.
A
Mm-hmm.
very narrow audience that I wrote to
Mm.
because they're ideally suited to hear this message. And
Okay.
it's the small business entrepreneur
Yeah.
who has to sell but hates to sell.
Okay.
They have to sell because they're too small to hire a salesperson,
Exactly.
right? And
Right.
that's
That's
most entrepreneurs, bootstrappers, small business owners, freelancers, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So target audience is part, and your connection is going to be based on who are you trying to reach, right?
Exactly.
The third characteristic is clarity. And
Mm-hmm.
how can we be clear unless we are prepared and we prepare others for the encounter with us? Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is a concept that very few people consider.
Okay.
Let me simplify it by saying, whenever you go to a meeting, there's an agenda. And if there isn't an agenda, what usually happens to the meeting?
Who knows?
Right?
Right. Gets off
Too
course.
easy to get off track, free for all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
takes
right.
too long. Right. No focus. So this is where I talk about setting an agenda for the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a sales call or a meeting with your boss or your subordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Have an agenda, verbalize the agenda, and gain agreement to the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
That way, your conversation stays on point. That way, and probably more important, people are put at ease because they know what to expect.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And that's huge in sales because whenever people feel like you're selling,
Mm-hmm.
shields go up,
That's right.
defenses go front,
That's right.
and they don't trust. That's the default position. They don't trust.
Right.
So this agenda setting, or I call it expectation setting,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is a way to put both the prospect and yourself at ease.
Okay.
The
Now,
Yeah, God.
yeah, like what I was reading, you talked about service,
Uh-huh.
being of service. Um, and knowing the relationship that I have with God, he is at service. I mean, he provides a service. Um,
Mhm.
and so when you go out into the world, I'm curious to how do you mix Jesus with sales? I mean, how do you do that?
it so when I don't know someone's
Hmm.
faith orientation,
Yes.
I'm still the same person as when I do.
Okay.
When I don't know, I am still speaking truth.
Okay.
When I do know, as you mentioned, reading my bio, working with the Amish, there
Yeah.
is no separation of God from anything in their world. God
Yeah.
is at work, God is at home, God is in everything.
Yes.
And so when I work with them, I support what I'm teaching with scripture.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm either less blatant or more blatant about the source of
Hmm.
what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it that way. Does that make sense?
Because that's your audience, so you already know the culture.
Right.
Right.
Now I have worked in corporations.
Yeah.
I still have some contract work with a national corporation.
Hmm.
And when I am in the larger meetings around, multiple layers of
Yeah.
management, I I just take my cue from who's in the room.
Hmm.
And I have been teaching in corporate offices where someone in the room will bring up their faith and how it's pertinent to the topic we're discussing.
Hmm.
And so we have freedom to do that because they talked about it. So I'm not pushing
Okay.
Jesus on people.
Okay.
I'm living according to my faith and my standards that are based in my faith.
Hmm.
And for example, I've had people ask me to do things that are in my world unethical.
Yes.
And I'm not going to slam them.
Okay.
I simply respond.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to decline. I am not comfortable doing that.
Okay. All right.
So I make a stand for my faith without any of the trappings or announcements, or it's just I'm living my values and I stick true to my values.
Okay.
And when I do, it actually becomes an invitation for others to be true to their values also.
Okay. So you say like selling without a strategy is very costly.
Yes.
So explain like the strategy now. Much of it is probably part of the characteristics of Christ, the seven characteristics. But like, for example, if someone mm, is wanting to maybe open up a business and
Hmm.
they need a loan, to open up the business. What
Okay.
methodology would you have them to use in the instance like that? Because they're selling,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. That's a great application of sales. I love that. So they're
Mhm.
selling themselves, their business, their idea, their projections
Yes,
to the banker or whoever the lender is, right?
right.
So there's a lot involved here.
Okay.
There's a structure. So there's going to be a step 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of structure
Hmm.
that you want to apply. But there's also the strategy of think like the lender. So
Okay.
if you're uh, they give you an application, of course you have to fill that out. But beyond that, how is this lender thinking?
Hmm.
What's important to them?
Hmm.
And how does my business idea fit that need?
Okay.
So just giving thought to that
Hmm.
is very important
Okay.
because that will shape how you present the material about your business opportunity.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there's the cut and dry must do to talk about costs, fixed costs, and revenue projections and profit margin. There's all that to consider. But beyond that, how are you going to present that information? Well, if you know what the trigger point is for the lender, you're constantly able to frame your business opportunity in that
Hmm.
light.
Hmm.
There's also, in going through that whole process, it's going to test your business model.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so, again, on the prep work side, so many people think, oh, I want to open a hair salon.
Right.
And I know what my costs are, and I know what I'm going to pay my people, and I know what my rent is.
Mm.
And I think X amount will be good for advertising. Okay, what did you base all of that on?
Hmm.
Is it, have you spoken to someone who's run that kind of business successfully in your market? Have you talked to people outside of your market
Hmm.
who are successful and
Hmm.
ask them the questions? What did you foresee that was accurate and what did you miss? What
Okay.
should I be looking at that I'm not even thinking about? What caught you by surprise?
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Because when we're excited and we're passionate, we
Hmm.
want it to work. It's like the honeymoon phase of a relationship, and
Hmm.
everything is rainbows and roses and
Yeah.
sweet flower smells. And, nothing can go wrong with this because it's my idea and God gave
Exactly.
me the idea
Exactly.
and it's going to work because I'm going to work really hard.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Hmm.
you have to also take the pessimistic eyeglasses and put them on and say,
Hmm.
what could go wrong?
Hmm.
And what's worst case scenario? I think rent's going to be this much. What if they up it in the
Yeah.
first year?
Be prepared.
And
Right.
I'm not expecting that.
Yeah.
What is that? And what am I able to charge profit margin wise?
Hmm.
What will the market bear? And can I absorb that? So you see, a
Right.
lot of it is being willing to look at all those things that might not go the way you want them to.
So that sounds like, is that more of like a win-win?
Say more. Tell me more of what you're thinking.
Well, first of all, we talk about this being, talking about sell like Jesus. You want to be of service.
Yes.
Jesus served. So what you're doing is you're serving and can pay back your loan to the lender and vice versa. He's going to go ahead and lend you that because you were able to share and state a great business plan that
Yes.
enable you for him to see or her to see that this is a great plan, and based on the strategy that they're using to open their business and move forward, I know that I'm going to get paid back.
Exactly.
Okay.
And uh, people, and this goes for anyone who is in the buyer seat.
Mhm.
I appreciate when I'm about to purchase something and the salesperson says, I can do this much, but this little piece over here, I'm not going to be able to do. Does
Mhm.
that mean we should stop?
Overpromise.
I'm going to
Mhm.
respect them more by
Mhm.
them saying, can't do this.
Right.
And I'm more likely to buy, which is counterintuitive.
Right.
Everybody thinks, no, you don't have to say that. No, when you know there's a red flag and you don't raise that red flag,
Yeah.
now you're the one that's hiding things. And that's really close to lying. And I know what the good book says about that. I
Yeah.
want no parts of it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to err on the side of being too honest in
Hmm.
the world's, perspective, maybe, because I don't want any false promises. I don't want any misunderstandings. I don't want any backouts. I don't
Hmm.
want any bad publicity after the fact
Hmm.
because you weren't satisfied because I wasn't 100% honest about something.
Right. Right. So they saw the authenticity, the candor that you
Yes,
shared, and all of those are characteristics of Jesus,
right.
and that's why you say sell like Jesus.
Yes.
You would talk about. I read some information that you were saying there were certain phrases one
Mhm.
should memorize
Ah,
in this
yeah.
process. What are those phrases?
So they are transition phrases
Okay.
that get you from one step to the next.
Hmm.
So I mentioned earlier about setting an agenda or setting expectations.
Right.
So a generic kind of expectation would sound like this. Hey, Cassandra, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Hmm.
Here's what I was hoping we could accomplish. I'd love to hear your thoughts and get a better understanding of where you're coming from. Also, I'd like to answer any questions that you have so that you can make a good decision about whether we move forward or not.
Okay.
And so, after we ask and answer some questions of each other, I'd love to be able to put our heads together and say either yes, we move forward, or
Okay.
no, we don't. And a
Okay.
no is perfectly fine.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
Okay. All right. So
So,
that's
that,
one of the
how does
phrases.
that sound to you? That's your transition.
Okay.
Because if I don't get buy in there,
Hmm.
I want the person to be on board, bought in to the fact that we're going to have a dialogue
Hmm.
and we're going to decide either we move forward or we don't. Notice I didn't say either you buy or you don't. I said
Right.
we move forward or
Yes.
not. Because
Exactly.
moving forward, there can be multiple steps in the
Hmm.
sales process.
Hmm. Hmm. And that provides a way, like you said, no, and it's a simplistic way of asking. It's open-ended, so
Yeah,
you all can discuss it rather than just saying a hard no
right.
or a hard
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
So the only thing I'm getting buy-in to at that point is the agenda. We're going to ask and answer some questions of each other, and
Right.
then we'll figure out what we do next. We'll figure it out together. And
Okay.
that's real language. And
Right.
it's whenever people try to do it for the first time, they go, "Oh, this is really awkward."
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
nobody does this. And yes, it is awkward. And so I always advocate practicing. And where do you practice? You practice on your family,
Okay.
because that's where you have to get buy-in every day.
Okay.
So
So
you try these techniques on with people who love you, and you can stutter and stammer and get your feet under you before
exactly.
you try it in a business setting.
Right. So that what you just shared is just a phrase,
Well, the transition phrase is to
transition phrase.
ask, you have to make sure you ask that question,
Okay.
how does that sound to you?
Okay. All right.
Because that will get the buy-in that allows you to go to the next phrase, which is, why don't you start? Tell me, why did you contact me?
Okay. All right.
So you'll notice I never say the same phrase exactly the same
Yeah.
twice.
Right.
It's more learning the intention, learning the flow,
Mm-hmm.
and then the intention of when you know it's time to go to the next step.
Okay.
So it is very methodical when you're in a sales role,
Okay.
because if someone doesn't have a problem that hurts badly enough, it doesn't matter what their budget or decision-making process is. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't even need to talk about those if the problem isn't severe enough.
Exactly. Exactly.
If they have a problem and it is severe, now we need to talk about the budget,
Mm-hmm.
because they need to be able to pay for it. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where a lot of Christians get caught.
Mm-hmm.
The worker is worth his wage.
Mm-hmm.
The worker is worth her wage.
Right. So what you're saying is we undercut?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Because we want to be nice,
Yeah.
because we mix up being godly and Christian with
Mm-hmm.
giving away the farm, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
And as we undercut, we diminish our value and
Right.
their respect.
Right.
And here's another one of those weird kingdom ironies. In the kingdom, we stand our ground and we are nurturingly assertive. In
Mm-hmm.
the world, the bullies beat us down and we go, "Oh, okay."
Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why we're not respected.
Right. Okay. That's good. So,
So
okay.
saying, I understand money is always an issue, and
Right.
I'm curious, what kind of budget have you set aside to take care of this problem?
Yeah, that's good. I call that the elephant in the room. Nobody really wants to talk about that, you know.
And
Yeah.
so I preface my question with the statement, I know money is always an issue. I know you want to be a good steward of your money.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you budgeted?
Okay.
What do you think it's going to take?
Right.
And then another piece that many people overlook in sales, money is really a small part of the decision process. People will make a lot of noise like it's the only issue,
Mm-hmm.
when in reality, fear of making a mistake will override a big bank account, a more than generous bank account, because fear will keep us from doing what is needed.
Okay.
So, to ask people, what are the non-monetary considerations that we need to look at? So, for example, if you're selling any kind of product that that interrupts workflow at a
Yeah.
company, you're going to have an initial learning curve, lack of productivity.
Right.
So there's going to be resistance to change,
Right.
and a decline in productivity before you realize the actual benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So why not bring that out in the open during the sales call? Don't wait until you've sold it and it's implemented, and now they're going, oh my gosh, these people, they're only getting half the amount of work done. This is horrible. We made a horrible decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it happened way too often. So I'm going to bring it up in the beginning and say, let's think about this. What do you think is going to happen to productivity? How many people do you think are going to readily embrace this change? How many do you think are going to resist it?
Mm-hmm.
And what kinds of things can we do together? Now I'm positioning myself as a consultant.
Right.
What can we do together to lessen the blow?
Right. Okay.
Who else do I need to talk to before you sign on the dotted line to make sure they're comfortable, their questions are answered?
Yeah, that's very important, because change it's inevitable. However, people will resist it. So let's put that on the table as well, so we can work through that.
Right.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Let me ask you, this is for my listeners.
Uh-huh.
All of my listeners have goals, dreams, etc. Yet they are stuck in regards to moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
What strategy would you use that would bless them to move forward? Because that's why this show is about. It's like, okay, I don't want to do this. I have this dream, I have this vision, but yet it's kind of like you said, you spent 6-8 years with the book, just thinking through it, So what strategy would you use, or can you help them to bless them to move forward?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things.
Okay.
Data speaks volumes. So where you have a dream and you haven't yet counted the cost, go and count the cost.
Okay.
Do the research. Take a class. Interview someone from that world. Ask them greatest successes, but more importantly, ask them greatest failures and how they overcame. So data can get us out of that position of fear that's holding us stuck.
Okay.
And there are multitude of ways to get data. Sometimes just talking to the 80-year-old retired such and such, right? There's a wealth of knowledge that can give you insight and foresight and spark new direction and spark creativity.
Right.
And pray to the Lord and ask him couple of things. Ask him, what would you have me do? To help bring clarity. And then also ask, what is keeping me stuck?
Okay.
Because the Holy Spirit knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yes.
And if we will say, Holy Spirit, shine your light on the dark corner that needs illumination. Show me what I'm afraid of.
Right.
So we together can deal with it.
Exactly. What are those limiting beliefs, that negative self-talk? So it sounds like, even if I have people that's listening that want to be a speaker, maybe an author or an advocate for something, business owner, solo entrepreneur, a gamut of things. They want to be like promoted. So first of all, like you indicated, whatever it is, you want to do the data, you want to research. If you want to be promoted, find out that position. What does that position entail? What are the pros and cons of that position? and interview somebody in that's doing the same thing. And also what you talked about, hi there, we see a cat, is to pray about it and ask God to reveal to you what is it that has you stuck. Right. So Deb, yeah. So with that said, I think that's a great segue to wrap our conversation up. Because and it's like sell like Jesus, everyone's in sales. Remember what the characteristics are. You'd like the people to do the same things that Jesus would do, and to know whatever you do in your daily life, you're selling.
Yes.
Right. So with that said, I just want to thank you and my listeners. I know they have acquired a lot of information and just have a different perspective on sell like Jesus. What an interesting topic, and to know that everybody's in sales. So I want to thank you, and I tell my listeners, if you see that this podcast session was of value, please share it. And also, it will be on every podcast platform, and it will be released in May. So I encourage you all to replay it if you missed some points or need some information. Deb, how can people contact you?
The best way is through my website, debbbrownsales.com.
Okay. So my listeners, so you know how you can contact Deb, and you know how you can contact me as well. And again, rather than me saying something I don't say, Deb, to my listeners is bye. I always say bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye for now. God bless you all, and stay tuned for the next podcast. Thanks so much, and God bless you.